Jesse McCoy is my fourth great granduncle. He was part of the Immortal 32. He actually served as sheriff of Gonzales.
Hi, I'm Forrest Bias. I'm a Defender descendant of Andrew Kent, one of the Immortal 32 that fought in the Alamo.
Well, two of the Immortal 32 that came to the defense of the Alamo on March the 1st, 1836, were from my family. My direct ancestor and third great-grandfather was James George, and my great-great-great uncle, William Deardriff.
At a young age, I started getting involved in my genealogy, and I noticed on my father's side through his mother that a lot of people were named Jesse. So obviously I went to my father and I was like, Dad, what's the deal with Jesse? And he looks at me and he goes, well, son, Jesse McCoy fought and died at the Alamo from Gonzales. My family felt a sense of pride in that name. They wouldn't have named a generation after generation after generation Jesse if they didn't have a sense of pride in who this person was.
It's an honor I take very seriously. I try to give talks on the Kent legacy and the Immortal 32 anytime I can. In the last 3 years, I've gone all around the state talking about Kent, trying to get his name out there. It's a very important legacy, and I take the honor very seriously.
There's nothing more pure of a sacrifice than the Immortal 32, and I think everyone has been touched by their sacrifice. They left us opportunity. So we are reaping the benefits of the sacrifices they did, almost 200 years ago.
Because of the sacrifice of the Alamo and San Patricio and Goliad, it galvanized the Texans into action. They did form an army, and we do know that on the plains of San Jacinto, to the cries of "Remember the Alamo," Texas won its independence on the battlefield. And I believe that the Alamo is the heart and soul of Texas.
That there was hardship and sacrifice from those that went before us in order to give us the life that we are able to live today. So their history, our history, should be honored and should be learned so that we know what they went through to give us what we have today.
And I think once individuals understand the sacrifice that these Immortal 32 made and kind of put themselves in their situation, in their shoes, I like to think if I went back in time and I had to change places with Jesse, would I be man enough to do what he did? Would I be brave enough to get on that horse and come here? And I think that's a true test that I give myself all the time. In different things that I face, different challenges. And I think, gosh, can I do this? And I think back to Jesse. Look what he did. And what more of a cause is more difficult than what Jesse went through? I mean, it makes the things that I'm facing pretty much very little and petty.
The runaway scrape was very important, as Elizabeth Zumwalt Kent found out, having to go east with everybody else. She lost 2 kids during that scrape. One of the daughters, Mary Ann, married William Bias. My name's Forrest Bias. That's my direct descendant. She is the oldest living Kent child to live up into her 80s. And I think that's very important on what the women had to go through and suffer through after all the Gonzales men had lost their lives in the Alamo.
As a former high school United States history and Texas history teacher, I want students and future generations to know that freedom is not free. We owe an invaluable debt of gratitude, respect, and honor to all of our veterans, past and present. And if we do not teach our history about the men and women who sacrificed, defended, and in many cases died defending freedom here and around the world, that everything we believe in will be lost in a generation. So it is our imperative, our duty and responsibility to teach our history.
When you look at history, everyone's tied into history. You can't escape it. Decisions made 200 years ago are affecting you today. Decisions you make now are going to affect someone 200 years down the road. So you can't really escape history. When you look at the Immortal 32, I don't care if you've been in Texas 8 generations or 8 days. You've been affected by the sacrifice of these men.